Critical analysis is simply when you analyse and evaluate a piece of work in an essay format. More specifically, you're being asked to review it by picking out features such as how it's presented and what the author is trying to convey.
So who wrote it, when and why.
Finding out what they're trying to say.
Looking at the good and bad things in a text.
In depth whilst being concisive and to the point.
A key difference between being descriptive and being critically analytic is that description simply states what happens, whereas critical analysis identifies the significance.
Backing up points with evidence and referring back to the work.
You back everything up with evidence.
And by recognising limitations of the evidence presented.
It's a very common essay style, and depending on your subjects, you'll have to write these at some point in the exam.
Critical analysis is a 3-step process consisting of description, analysis, and evaluation. Description involves pinpointing the what, who, when, and where. For example, what is this about, what is the context or situation, and what is the main topic of interest. Analysis involves the how, why, and what if. For example, how does one factor affect another? Evaluation is about the significance of the text, what can be learned from it, and what happens next.
So in summary, it is a process that considers how a point looks, works by deconstructing the point and breaking it down, and how it compares to other points in order to make a judgment about its value or significance.
The SQ3R method is an effective method as it helps to efficiently understand information.
The SQ3R method stands for the following 5 steps: survey, question, read, recite, and review.
You'd first start off with S, which stands for survey. So you'd skim read over the text and look out for presentational features, such as the layout, pictures, and certain sections.
The second step is to ask questions about the text you've just scanned. For example, what do you already know about the topic and what your goal is for reading the text? Try to understand what the author is trying to convey.
Then incorporate the 3 R's, starting with read, reading through the text again and bearing the last 2 steps in mind, and writing down any additional questions.
The fourth step is to recite the information you've read in your own words.
Finally, review all the important information.
Having those 4 steps to work through when you're trying to critically analyse a piece of writing or a source can really help you to make sure that you don't miss out any parts of the text that might be important.
One strategy I use particularly is to highlight a source where it answers the questions what, where, who, and when. I then annotate these points to expand them using my own knowledge, like why something occurs or how it works, or what are the issues or alternatives to the source.
Know why you're reading it, as this can help you understand it more and how you can use it in your writing.
I try to highlight all the key pieces, so anything that could help me in writing my answer, especially in an exam. A lot of people do this and they underline different words, they make mind maps, and just plan your answer before you write it.
It's also important to take your time when reading something, as this means you can miss something more if you're reading fast, and you may not retain the information.
Look at sources online. I don't just look at one, I look at others, see if they all link up, make sense.
For me, my reading strategy is to read through the whole text first, before adding any highlights or notes. Then I go through each paragraph slowly, highlighting which parts are actually useful and which parts are unnecessary.
My reading strategy for critically analysing sources is essentially just going through it with a highlighter and kind of picking out the key information. So if it's a key word, for example, I'll highlight that and then most probably that sentence after it as well, where it probably explains it or gives a bit more detail on what I need to know.
Rereading difficult sentences can help with comprehension of the sentences to understand what it means, and highlighting the important sections is also key, so later on you can use these as quotes to generate an analysis.
Always reread, as if you have missed something, you can always find it again.
Critical analysis is important outside of your studies as it helps you to evaluate news articles and media posts and their reliability and bias.
Fake news is news stories that are either completely untrue or do not contain all of the truth, with the intention of deliberately misleading the readers. It's important to be alert to the potential for reports to be fake and to ensure that they are not spread around, as this can lead to many people believing something that is not true.
They're often spread by people who haven't checked the source before sharing it. Therefore, having a critical analytical mindset learned from academic writing can help you review the information more rationally, asking questions such as, is it trying to persuade you to think in a certain way?
It's important to critically analyse any news reports or articles that seem even somewhat suspicious to you, and this can be done by investigating the source, looking at evidence on which the article bases its claims, and checking whether other reliable news sources are reporting the story.
Critical analysis is also an important skill needed for job titles such as accountants, who have to pay attention to detail when interpreting and analysing financial data for their clients.
It'll help you realise when somebody's scamming you, so things like fake news or emails that don't seem quite right.
It also helps you to be more critical of yourself and helps you to be more open-minded and empathetic, as you can understand several points of view.
When writing essays and looking for information online, it's important to know the difference between credible sources and unreliable ones. My biggest tip is to avoid Wikipedia at all costs, simply because it allows the public to edit information which can then be viewed by anyone.
I won't use Google at all because this can bring up blog posts and things people have written that are not checked and that they go straight onto the internet.
Google is good for opinion-based pieces, but it is worth thinking about who wrote it and whether it could be biased.
I make sure to always use the most reliable websites, especially when I'm looking for information online. I find it can be really helpful to Google it a few more times as well. If I find one piece of data, I should be able to find it in other places as well if it's correct.
Check all articles I find to make sure they are useful, accurate, not outdated, and credible.
Also, when reviewing sources, look out for author names and publication dates, as the most recent and updated ones will be more useful than older, outdated work.
A good way to find credible sources online is by using scholarly databases such as LexisNexis and EBSCO. Government and educational websites tend to be the most reliable, and these include science.gov, the World Factbook, UK Statistics, and Encyclopaedia Britannica.
I often go to my teachers because they literally suggest loads of credible resources for you to find on the internet to back up stuff.
How I find my sources is I either look at the back of my textbooks, as there are links and references at the back to get additional trusted information on where the textbook authors themselves have gotten from over a particular subject.
Many universities have online libraries, so it could be worth signing up to your local university library, such as Sussex or Chichester. They have access to thousands of online journals and articles that are definitely worth looking at. And otherwise you could look at local libraries who also have access to many online journals and articles.
Referencing is really important, as if we don't credit the authors of the sources we use, we'd be stealing the words and ideas and pretending that they are our own.
Plagiarism is a real offence.
Plagiarism involves a person using words or ideas of others and passing them off as their own.
And even if you have reference, it doesn't mean you can just copy and paste.
Although it's good to include external sources of information in your writing, it's important to produce original work that shows your own ideas and how the works of others have influenced your understanding. Make sure to reference when you're using ideas or words from books and journal articles, newspapers and magazines, films or TV programs, websites, letters, emails and discussion forums.
It's also really helpful, so if other people read your work, they know where to go to look at the evidence, so they can form their own opinions and form their own arguments.
If you're submitting that piece of work, for example, for your coursework, or it's actually going to the exam board, they check quite heavily in case that you may have copied anything. So it's really important that you reference everything.
Microsoft Word has a specific referencing tool which can make the process faster by putting in links, dates, times, everything that you need. Doing this will show people that you are crediting others and not plagiarising work as your own.
In the next videos, we'll be sharing our top tips for successful studying, including
revision techniques
and completing assessments.
So please make sure to like, subscribe and press the bell.
Like, subscribe and press the bell button.
Like, subscribe and press the bell.
Like, subscribe, press the bell.
Like, subscribe and press the bell.
Like, subscribe and press the bell.
Like, subscribe and press the bell to know when the next video goes live.